first chapter of St. Mark, beginning at the 29th verse. As soon as Jesus and his disciples left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. He came up, took her by the hand, and lifted her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick and possessed with demons. And the whole city was gathered around the door. And he cured many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still very dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go to the neighboring towns, so they might proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came out to do." And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues, casting out demons. Here ends the gospel for the day. Please be seated. Start the sermon today in a rather auspicious way by saying in today's sermon there will be nothing new. And it really doesn't have much to do with the gospel text this morning either, because we really talked about demons last week, and it is a perfect time to go a little astray. But I want to talk about the spiritual journey that I've taken this last week. Wasn't expected. But in reflecting upon my spiritual experience, maybe you might take the journey yourself. On Tuesday morning, Ray Robbins came into the office. I asked Ray if I can use it, and he said yes. And he said, "Hans, have you got some time?" And I said yes. And he said, I'd like to take you up to the cemetery." And I said, "Because I like to be right about things." I said, "Why, you picked out a grave for me?" And there was a little bit of a pause, and he says, "Yes, as a matter of fact, that's what it's about." I still thought he was kidding. But I got into the car and went up with him, and he started to explain. I'm no longer going to be in charge of the cemetery. I've given that to Terry. After what, 30 to 50 years, somewhere in between there. And he said, "We want to give you a plot. And there's a couple plots that the church owns in the old section, but I don't want to do anything until I talk to you, and then of course we have to present it to the council to see if they want to give you that plot." And so he took me up and showed me the plot. And this is where I'm going to spend some time later on. Now, it isn't the first time that I've gone to a place where I have a plot, because when I go to Minnesota every August and involve myself in my class reunion and also a golf tournament that one of my classmates and I participate in, we go past the cemetery where we have purchased 60 lots. And there is a place for me there. But it never really struck me, because I go to visit and I think about my father and my mother and my departed brother and my sister-in-law who are there. Only 4 of the 16 lots used. But time and time again I've told my brother or the people who are in charge of the lot that when the resurrection comes, I really don't want to get up out of out of the grave if it's January because it's just too cold. I try to be light about these things, but it does concern me. I have been in other cemeteries, and I like to go through cemeteries and read some of the epitaphs that are there. And I like to go through this cemetery and reminisce about some of the people that are there since I've come here, that I grew to know and love and care for, and have pleasant thoughts about. But now I'm facing my own mortality, and I look at the spot and it said it can use some grass. As if that mattered. But being in the old section, I can put a stone there, right? It's not one of those that's prohibited from leaving that big stone. And there is a big one there. It's kind of like a lighthouse. But then I went home and I started to have reflections. Now, I've got a very favorite poem. It's called Elegy in a Country Churchyard. It's written by Thomas Gray after the death of his friend Richard West. This is from English poetry in the 18th century. And so this is my elegy in a country churchyard, taking an early look at my grave. The first thing I thought about after I was home was a feeling of celebration, a feeling of gratitude, because I looked at myself and I saw myself in such a privileged position. Not only in terms of being here as a part of this congregation, but being 84 and being as healthy and able to communicate and get around. Of all the blessings that I have and all the friends that I have. But I came very, very more alert to the urgency of the day. And that I have to make use of this day because that's all I have. I can't do anything about the past. And the future is uncertain, but I have this day. And one of the things I did was called a couple of people that I was supposed to meet in Hawaii last week. And I said, we got to get together. I've had a wake-up call, and we missed an opportunity, but when's the time we can get together? And we set that time. But it was a feeling of gratitude. That was the first response. The second question that I had, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Is where I'm supposed to be? I reflected on the day. There were 3 people that called me about the sermon last week and said that it meant a lot to them. I had somebody stop in who wanted to see the church again and thank me for a service that I had done for her husband 6 years ago. And she wanted to meditate a little in the church. She thanked me for the message that I'd given 6 years ago. She still remembered it. And she gave a rather generous contribution to the church. I had a couple other calls. People had needs, a hospital visitation. It was going amok. I said, this is the place I'm supposed to be. I said, you can stop any time. I've got the day used up, God. You've answered my question. And then I started thinking, what's really important, really critical in terms of things that I need to do to make myself better? And one of the things that came to my mind immediately was kindness. I need to be more kind. I got on the flight from Hawaii back to Austin a little over a week ago, and I was about to sit down, and there was a lady there in the seat next to the one that I was supposed to sit in, and she looked up and she said, are you going to sit with me all the way to Austin? And I said, well, if you're G24, I guess I am. And she said, well, my name really isn't G24, it's Nancy, but that's okay. If you want to call me G24, it's okay. And she said, you look very kind. And I said, well, you just made my day. And I'll probably be kind as a result of what you said. But thank you for that. I don't know how you come up with that. And she said, there's just something about you that looks kind. I said, what a gift to give somebody, to look at them and give them that kind of affirmation. Because so many and so much of the time, we say negative things and concentrate on things that we can criticize. And here's a woman that doesn't even know. But we spend a wonderful 8 hours discussing a lot of things. And we parted and said, our lives are so much richer. And I wish I could communicate to everybody that this was a kind face and a kind person. But I don't always do that. I remember a song that I really used to like when I was a child, and I don't know why it's not in the hymn book, but it's called Evening Prayer. And it starts out by saying, if I've wounded any soul today, if I've caused one foot to go astray, if I've walked in my own willful way, oh Lord, forgive. And there's a number of other stanzas, but that's a basic message of this poem. When my mother wrote in my autograph book, which we did when we were in that era, we had a little autograph book and we'd get people to sign it and write a little message to us for life. And I've quoted this from her before, but she said the message I want to give to you for the rest of your life is one that found in another poem that I love. I shall pass this way but once. So any good or kindness I can show any human being, let me do it now. Let me not deter or neglect it, for I might not pass this way again. My mother wasn't always kind to everybody. Sometimes a little cruel to her sisters. But this was her motto, and even though she missed it, this is what she wanted to pass on. Then I thought about Galatians, the 5th chapter, the 22nd verse. It says, the fruit of the Spirit are joy, peace, patience, kindness, gladness, faithfulness, self-control. And it says, against such things there are no laws. In the book, The Boy and the Horse, the mole asked the boy, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the boy says, kind. And when the boy and the mole are reflecting with the horse looks at him and says, nothing beats kindness. It's quietly beyond all things. Then I thought about epitaphs. And it's interesting to read epitaphs. They aren't done much anymore. Stones aren't allowed. There used to be printing on there. Sometimes they were Bible verses. Sometimes they were something flippant. Sometimes they were meant to be humorous. But they had a message to say. And I was thinking, what would I like to put on a stone if I was to be one? The one I remember most was real strange. It was a grave for a 3-month-old. And it said, it is so soon I was done for, I wonder what I was begun for. And I wonder if that's not only the message or the question of a 3-month-old, but of us, every one of us. It seems like life goes by so fast. It goes too soon. What was I begun for? What I like is an epitaph is something that says something about kindness, something about forgiveness, and something about gratitude. Because those are the things I reflected on. What do I need was the next question I had to end this reflection on the elegy in a country churchyard. What do I need the most help to get? Because it's the biggest struggle that I have, and that is with forgiveness. Without forgiveness, you just can't go forward. That's why we have it in our Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And that's why we have that message from the Sermon on the Mount that says, if you're coming to the altar to worship, and you remember there that you have something against your neighbor, go get it straightened out and then come and offer your gift and come and worship. Not too long ago, I was talking to someone, I talked about something I'd done to them in the past, and I said, I'd like forgiveness for that. The person said, for what? I reflected on what I thought I'd done. And she said, I don't remember it. And I said, yes, you can't forgive. And there are some things that are worth forgiving. The person that says, I'll never forget, I'll get revenge, I don't get mad, I get even. I feel sorry for her. Because if you want to give a description of hell, that's what it is. The inability to forgive. And so I need forgiveness. Because sometimes I don't want to forgive. Sometimes I really get mad because there's an injustice. Accused of things they didn't say or do. And it's hard to forgive. But Jesus said, yep, I'm the one that was on the cross. And you remember in your seminaries, training, that person that said on your graduation, if you don't look good on a cross, don't go into the ministry. Don't be a follower of Jesus. Because even on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So pray for my strength there. They say that the grave is the final resting place. But that's the final point I want to make. It's not. It's just a pause. Because of the death and resurrection of our Christ, it's not a resting place forever. It's merely temporary. Not a purgatory, not a stopping place. A place to sleep until the resurrection. And then God will pick us up again, and we will live again in His glory. I was wondering about Easter Sunday, if the Easter Sunday service should be this year to go to my place and just reflect on it and to say, this is not the end. This is the first of a new beginning. So in all apology to Thomas Gray and his elegy in a country churchyard, that's mine. And I thank Ray for thinking about me. And before he leaves, he wanted to make that a part of his gift as far as the church is concerned, that I would have a place here forever. And maybe somehow I hope that someday somebody will shed a tear because I was here. Amen. Sermon hymn, When Peace Like a River, 785. 785, When Peace Like a River.